All right, so hello everyone, once again, welcome back after the break. To those of you who don't know me yet, I'm Vilma Sukatska from Kaunas University of Technology, and I'm representing our quite a big team that's working on the intellectual output number 4. And our IO is focused on developing our engineering students' global competence and entrepreneurship competences as well. So that's our team of people who are formally or informally involved in working on developing our deliverables. So in our IO, we have 4 partner universities. So that's our university, KTU. We have University of Cambridge, KTH, and Aalto University. So we have a quite big and very dynamic team, people full of ideas. So yeah, we're working we have some struggles here and there, but I think we're working quite successfully until now. And I'm going to tell you in a bit what we've done and what we're going to do yet still in our IO. All right, so first of all, when people hear about global competence, some of them are a bit confused or lost regarding what that means. And maybe people are more familiar with the term entrepreneurship or entrepreneurial competences. So first of all, when we started our work and when we were still writing up the application part for IO4, we were discussing what global competence is because there are some different definitions out there. So we had to be on the same page of what that actually is to us. In this project. So as you can see on the slides, there are some keywords that are important for global competence and entrepreneurial competence. And as you can see, some of them are kind of overlapping. So that's why we decided to merge them together in our IO. Why? You might ask why. Well, the idea was that, well, if you look at global competences, right? So it's important to be able to understand different kinds of levels of issues and problems. So starting from something close to your circle, going more like local and moving towards global issues. So kind of imagining this onion of layers and possible problems, and then understanding different kinds of worldviews and different cultures. So that is very closely related to speaking a foreign language, or knowing, at least having some kind of linguistic knowledge about languages, differences between them, and so on and so forth. So language proficiency is really, well, at least this is what I stand for, that language proficiency is definitely part of global competence. However, in foreign language classrooms, it's not that commonly addressed. At least that's what our findings of a survey that we conducted also reveal. And when you think about our engineering students and the kind of context in which they're developing their skills as professionals, as experts, and also the context that they are going to be working in, let's say the work dynamics is changing and the workplace dynamics is changing. So more and more often, engineering students are freelance workers. So they don't necessarily work in some local company in the same city. I myself have a lot of friends who are computer engineers, and they live here in Kaunas. They work for companies in the Netherlands, in the UK, in the USA, you name it. And they have to work in those sometimes multidisciplinary, most of the times multicultural teams. And so this language proficiency and intercultural communication is really important. So these soft skills that they are lacking, what we find again and again and again being said both in scientific papers and from our colleagues who are teaching those students. And they need to improve those soft skills, not only to be able to work in those multicultural teams, but also to be able to sell their ideas. Engineers really have the capacity to solve a lot of problems and a lot of issues. They're usually really creative, and university gives them the necessary skill set to be able to solve different problems and issues. So they can really become the innovators and develop different kinds of solutions. However, again, since they're kind of lacking those soft skills and they're not necessarily knowledgeable about how to sell, okay, sell themselves maybe is not a good term here, but to sell their idea and to convince people to believe in their idea and to, at the end of the day, maybe invest money in developing their solution. Okay, so for this reason, we kind of tried to combine the global competence together with the entrepreneurial competence because they're kind of very closely interrelated, and to be able to develop our deliverables. We, of course, as everyone else here, set a specific timeline. So we started with compiling a list of global competence and entrepreneurial competence and skills. So we had people kind of brainstorming in their small teams what those skills might be. And then we also looked at, we conducted a survey with the teachers from the universities who are working on this IO. We conducted a small scale survey to find out what kind of global competences or entrepreneurial competences teachers are trying to develop, and what kind of courses there are, and what kind of specific exercises and tasks there are. So we wanted to see what is there and what is still maybe missing. So to find a niche how our deliverables could fill the gap and deliver something both useful and innovative. And now we're still kind of finalizing those exercises and tasks, and we're going towards the stage where we're going to, well, we already pitched some ideas in our team on developing the scenarios for an e-handbook that is going to be the main deliverable from our IO. And then we're going to design specific activities that would address developing global competences and entrepreneurial competences with the guidelines to both teachers and students. That also include like tips and of course objectives, scope, and assessment criteria. Then we're going to pilot test the e-handbook. So we're going to teach our teachers to work with the methodology that we propose in our e-handbook. And you can see the rest, it's more of kind of administrative, bureaucratic things that we need to do, and also finalize the e-handbook based on the feedback and the experiences of the teachers and the students that we get. Yeah, so we're now focusing, well, we now already did the first steps, and we're working on developing the exact tasks and the curriculum of the e-handbook. So our intellectual output is mainly going to be this e-handbook, but it will be supplemented with lecture slides, and there will also be a self-evaluation and control package. because the materials that we're going to develop, well, our idea is that both teachers and students could use them um, kind of in a flexible manner where they could control their own pace of learning, time of learning, etc. Well, of course, this also depends on the kind of course this handbook would be implemented in. And there would be also trainers material, so that's more like a teacher's book or some scenarios and help for teachers who would be implementing either the whole handbook or relevant bits and pieces. We want to make the e-handbook kind of let's say modular, so that you don't necessarily have to go through the whole handbook. You can take something that's relevant to you. If you want to develop certain competences related, I don't know, to professional development or to public speaking, market research, etc., etc. So you could just take bits and pieces that are relevant to you and then implement them in your course, and that's going to be explained and well, kind of teachers will be guided through how to do this kind of thing in the teacher's book. So the exercises that are going to be included, well, the materials that are going to be included in the e-handbook are going to be language neutral. So they could be adapted to teachers who teach different languages. And yeah, so they are going, as I've already mentioned, they're going to kind of combine global competences and entrepreneurship. And what's also important, where maybe we could, I don't know, in this regard, kind of in a way team up with IO4 regarding e-communication, because in our handbook we're also, of course, going to, let's say, give advice what kind of digital materials or digital platforms or tools the teacher could use. Maybe with specific examples, or at least with types of the tools that could be used. So for example, I don't know, some certain forums, blogs, or platforms that allow to do editing, creating visuals, etc., etc. All right, so before I tell you even more about the concept of our e-handbook, I would like to first hear some of your experiences, or well, see some of your experiences about design thinking. Our handbook is going to be based on design thinking method. So before I give like a crash course into design thinking to some of you, maybe I want to know whether you are familiar with this type of method at all, and if so, whether you've applied it in your classes, and if so, what kind of products did your students develop? So please go to www.menti.com and insert the code 9315, and you should see the question. Okay. I'm gonna try to share the screen with you so we can see the answers that pop up. Okay, not really. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay, so there are some use together with companies. That's good. All right. Okay, let's wait for some more answers. Yes and yes. Okay. Not familiar. Okay. More or less. Okay, somebody uses it in language classes to talk about specific subjects, like designing new planes in an aeronautics school. Okay.
Yeah, that's me, Katja. So because I love this design thinking method, we use it in these innovative missions, you know, where they work with the companies. But this is not in a language class. But as I like it, I think it's really interesting also to use it in language classes. And the students really appreciate it and are more creative with these tools.
Yeah. I myself have implemented it in language classes. I would kind of adapt it so it takes only 1 or 2 classes to go through the whole designing process, and students liked it quite a lot. It's an interesting approach, I think, to looking at things from a different perspective and being creative. Okay, we have tried it and it's widely used at other parts of, where did it go? Okay, other parts of the university. Okay, the outcomes were so-so. Okay, sorry to hear that. All right, so it seems to me like at least half of you are not so much familiar with design thinking. So I'm gonna try to be as comprehensible as possible about the steps and to give you a short crash course into how design thinking works. All right, so thank you for your answers. I'm gonna go back to the slides now. Okay. Can you see my slides now? Yeah? All right.
Yes.
Yeah, so Brigitte, if you can, please share the link to our Padlet in the chat. Somehow I cannot access it when I'm full screen mode. All right, so before I explain about this design thinking approach, I should explain the outcome of our previous steps of implementing the project. So we did a survey on the components of global competence and entrepreneurial competence. Then we moved on to the survey where teachers were asked what kind of global competence and entrepreneurial competence related exercises they do and implement in their courses to develop those competences. And then we comprised tables with all those different skills and competences that the teachers mentioned. Interestingly enough, I think probably more awareness should be raised towards what global competence is, because the majority of responses that we received were not really like specific or concrete examples of what they are implementing, but more focusing on what kind of competences or skills are important. So that's an interesting finding that kind of surprised me. But after that, what we did, we started building a matrix, building on the findings of the previous stages. We were building a matrix of the possible topics or units for the handbook, or we also called them milestones that students should go through. And every single one of those milestones or units, topics, themes, we kind of are using different synonyms for the same thing here. But every single one of them has specific study aims. And then there are subtopics as well, and we have global competences, entrepreneurial competences indicated, and also ideas for exercises that could be implemented in each of those stages. So then we were trying to, from all the ideas that we generated, in the matrix, we were trying to kind of narrow everything down to have more kind of comprehensible and kind of bigger, chunkier chapters that would have their different subtopics. So we came up with these three big parts. As you can see, the first one is ideation and market research. Then we have teamwork. And then we have persuasive communication or persuasive use of language. And so these are our kind of main, let's say, pillars that we're going to focus on. And as you can see, there are different subtopics in each and one of them. And while developing the e-handbook, we're going to address these three big topics by kind of stacking them on the process of design thinking. Now, let me tell you a bit more about design thinking. So first and foremost, design thinking is really a student-oriented approach to learning. It's very hands-on, and students get to work a lot in a team. And so they really can improve their teamwork skills, and it requires them to be very creative as well. And one of the most important things, the focus, let's say, even of the approach is empathy. Students have to empathize a lot in all the stages of the implementation. Students have to empathize a lot with the potential user. And so this is also kind of a part of the global competence, where you also have to understand different problems that exist close to you or somewhere more globally on a global scale, and then also understand different kinds of cultures and people who might be using your solution. So in the first stage, when we start, we have a kind of brainstorm of problems or issues. So students gather together and they think about the problems that they are facing, or the problems that other people are facing, or they can brainstorm about something that they would like to be existent. And their ideas can be really crazy. They can come up with a lot and lots of ideas, and that's fine at that stage. That's really good and encouraged. And then they're encouraged to really try to understand the potential user's perspective. So kind of walk a mile in the potential user's shoes, and then they're trying to, after kind of trying to see their point of view more, which can be done by conducting interviews. It can be done by doing some research, or just by brainstorming, sharing experiences and whatnot. They're trying to define the problem more specifically. So in this case, they can also conduct interviews and do an analysis of their problem formulations. And when they go to the next stage, which is ideation stage, then they work in teams, and they come up with 3 or 5 ideas or problems. And then the students, the team members, they vote for each other's problems, and then they select the one problem that they would like to address. For example, when I'm traveling, I usually travel alone for work. And when I go to conferences, I would really love to have some kind of app for scientists or for university staff, where I could meet someone for coffee and to discuss science, or to discuss, I don't know, research or work or anything. Not something, you know, romantic kind of a dating app for scientists, but something where I could safely meet someone who shares the same scientific interest as me. Some people advised me to use LinkedIn for that, but I'm not using it for that. So, for example, if somebody chose to develop this kind of idea, then the next thing would be to conduct a semantic analysis of all the terms that are present in the question. For example, how might we encourage communication of university staff while traveling abroad? And so every single one of those terms would be analyzed. So what does it mean to encourage? And who is this we? Who is going to be encouraging the university staff? And then who is university staff? What kind of staff are we addressing? And communication, what is communication? What kind of communication are we talking about? And traveling abroad also, what does that entail? So they would do this kind of analysis, and there are different variations, slightly different variations of design thinking in this regard. In some of the sources, I found that after semantic analysis, students can once again conduct interviews, and in order to even better understand what kind of problem they're trying to solve, and they need to come up with the stereotypical user of the solution, and then think what kind of aspects are really important to that potential user, and then they can move on to prototyping. And this stage is really fun. In traditional design thinking, you can build your prototype from anything. For example, at our university, we have a design thinking lab. So it's full of different scraps, paper, pieces of toys, Legos, empty toilets, paper rolls, and whatnot, you name it. Any kind of garbage can become elements for building your prototype. And, I don't remember in which university. I think it's some university in Sweden. They have like a huge warehouse where they are doing those workshops for design thinking. So they have like more professional equipment for prototyping. So it depends, like how much space, how much resources you have. But now we can also very easily do what I call technology enhanced design thinking. So instead of creating a prototype from scraps, you can use platforms like, for example, Powtoon, where there are templates for really nice explainer videos that are like 2 or 3 minutes long, and you can use the templates to modify them to add different like moving people, objects, text, and whatnot. You can use, for example, Visme or Canva for creating infographics to explain some kind of process if your end product is a process, not some kind of tangible object. You can use simulations. You can, well, it depends on your digital skills, right? And what kind of platforms you're comfortable with. But it can very easily be just a simple drawing on paper. So once the prototype is done, then there is the evaluation and testing stage, where students check, well, not check, they test each other's prototypes, and then they give feedback. So this testing stage could be done by teachers, by peers. You could invite another teacher or some other students from the corridor to test them out. Those could be the potential users of the solution, and whatever you have, whomever you have available to you, basically. And then after they do this testing stage, they get, of course, feedback. And then it's up to them to decide whether they want to address this feedback and to tweak something that's necessary, or they can already kind of produce to move on to the final stage, where they would, for example, go and try to get somebody to invest in their solution, and then of course to make it real. So our idea is to use this design thinking method, this kind of process. Oh, of course, sorry, I forgot to mention that design thinking process is not really like linear. You can jump from one stage to another. For example, after testing and getting feedback, which might not be very positive, you might go back to the first or the second stage or the third stage and kind of rethink your ideas and to change them, and then go back to other steps of the process. So it's not linear. So it's very iterative. All right. So our idea is to work along the lines of this design thinking method, and to get our students go through all of those stages of basically developing an innovative solution or to a problem. And the end moment will be them taking part in a simulation of a business angels conference or meeting, where they would have to sell their product. So convince people to invest in their product. I don't know if you've seen, there's this show. Okay, of course, I had to forget the name of the show. Something about Dragon Dungeon, I think, where a lot of rich people like Mr. Branson owns Virgin. There's a panel of really rich people, and they're investing in these startups and innovative products. So this would be a simulation similar to that. All right, so I want to show you some examples from what kind of things were developed by applying design thinking. And design thinking, I've been told that architects started, I think the architects were the ones who started using this method first. And for example, they would, before they are constructing pathways, they would, for example, look at where people are walking around. So probably everyone has noticed in their neighborhood that there's a nice pathway, but there's a shortcut to go through some kind of other yard or something, and people keep walking on the grass, and then a more kind of natural path is created. And architects or urban planners look at people's behavior and try to understand their behavior, and then try to propose solutions to solve those challenges or to meet the user's needs. So here you have a room where we have an MRI, and as you probably know, in an MRI, you have to lay down really, really still. You cannot really be moving around, or the scan won't work. So imagine a small child having to go to have an MRI. For them, they're usually very hyperactive, and for them it's very hard to stay in one place. And imagine being like put into this horrible machine that's making this scary noise. So people are trying to think what kind of solution they could propose so that children feel more comfortable going into MRI. So this is an example of what they came up with. So now it looks like a playground. It looks fun, and children are not that scared anymore to go there. Or another example of a prototype. So just using some scraps, some post-it notes, some Legos, and just painting and writing the text on a piece of paper. Or if you're trying to show some kind of process or service, then you can also like draw these infographic type of drawings, and you can use traditional means like paper and pens, or you can use even Google Docs or PowerPoint slides to showcase this kind of thing. Another example, maybe a bit more, let's say, advanced was I found in one university there's a course on design thinking. I think it's a university in Sweden. I might be mistaken. I don't remember it anymore. But there was an issue that people from two different campuses of the university, they're not really, well, students, they're not really communicating much. So they were, so students were trying to solve this problem. How might we help or increase the amount of communication, sorry, the degree of communication between the students from those different campuses? And what they came up with was cable cars joining the two campuses. So they 3D printed the prototype. Or I was giving a workshop on this design, well, on technology enhanced design thinking at the end of January in one university in Sweden. And teachers who took part in the seminar, one of the group was developing a solution for the problem that they have regarding doing sports. So at their university, over a week, they have 1 hour that they can use for doing sports, either at universities' gyms or go outside for a run or take a walk, and they get paid for that hour. And their challenge that they wanted to solve was how might we increase the communication of people from different departments so that they do sports together, so that they spend this hour of doing sports together. So they were brainstorming different ways how to implement that, and they came up with an app, and they presented their app by using Powtoon. I've already mentioned that's a really nice platform that you could use for, it contains templates for really nice explainer videos. So they used that to present their prototype, and they were very, very excited about the end product, and they said that they would probably approach their rector with this prototype and suggest that they really implement and develop this kind of app so that everyone can do sports together. All right, so I hope you more or less have an idea of how design thinking works now. So I would like you to go to our Padlet, and there you will see the 5 stages of implementing design thinking. And if I failed to convey some of the information about those steps, there are short descriptions below the stages, so we can have a look at that once again. And we would like to ask you to add some ideas of activities or tasks or anything relevant that you can think of that could help to develop our students' global competence and entrepreneurial competence. And also kind of have in mind those are 3 important topics that we have. So we have this ideation and market research, we have communication and collaborative work, and then persuasive use of language. So I don't know how much time we have. I don't have a watch with me.
Well, it's quarter to 4. We started 10 minutes late, so let's say we should have 10, maximum 15 more minutes.
Okay.
Is this okay?
So yeah, sure. So we can have like 10 minutes maybe for brainstorming. Of course, this Padlet will be open for you. If you have time and energy and ideas that you would like to share with us and contribute, you're most welcome to add them at any point of today, tomorrow, or even later. We would greatly appreciate it. We have a meeting on Monday, so we will be looking at your input as well. So, all right, so 10 minutes for brainstorming.
Okay, so we all go to the Padlet and write individually ideas. That's
Yes.
it? Okay.
Yeah.